Speaking as an out-of-towner, every time I fly over Manhattan, I see basically an amputated battery area. The bottom of the island looks amputated. I see the missing towers. Is that a better monument than the Freedom Towers just not having anything, or would you rather have the World Trade Towers back?
I'd rather have nothing than what they're building, Chris. It's a terrible design. It was designed by an egghead architect who really doesn't have a lot of experience at designing something like this. And it's just a terrible design. It's wrong angles. I mean, the worst of all, it's a skeletal building. And, you know, if you look at it, what is it really? It's a 60-story building with a skeleton on top of it that goes 40 or 50 stories with nothing in between. And it's a disgusting design that we're going to have to live with for many, many years in New York and actually in the world, because New York City is so international, and it doesn't represent what we want to have represented. What I want to see built is the World Trade Center stronger and maybe a story taller, and that's what everybody wants. The New York Post came out today strongly. The Wall Street Journal yesterday in their editorial came out strongly for that. That's what people want. They don't want to have, I don't want to be stuck with 5 or 6 buildings that were designed by a guy that shouldn't be designing buildings, in my opinion. And it's just terrible what's happened in New York. And they're trying to push this thing through, and I don't know why. We should have the World Trade Center bigger and better.
Is the problem the architect, Libeskind, or is it the commission? Did someone tell him to combine a grave marker with an office building, and that's the problem?
Well, I don't even blame the architect. I mean, the architect was in what's called a charrette. A charrette is where the architects get together and they come up with the best design, and they had 5 or 6 firms competing, and they chose his design. So who can blame him? I mean, he came up with this design. He was probably shocked when he got it. But it's a terrible design. And not only the Freedom Tower, the buildings around it, they have roofs at all different angles. It looks like a junkyard, and it shouldn't be built. And instead of not being built, they're pushing forward to get it built faster. And, I mean, frankly, I'd rather see nothing than see that pile of junk.
What role are you going to take? I mean, you're not a sidewalk superintendent. You're Donald Trump. I mean, what role? Will you lead a coalition to stop Governor Pataki from his strong support for the Freedom Tower?
Well, there's not much of a role I can take. It all started when the New York Post called me and asked my opinion. And I'm the biggest developer in New York by far. I've done just about, I guess, everything you can do in the world of real estate. And I see what's happening down there. It's a mess. And the developer is actually a friend of mine, but he didn't want to build this building either. If you look back at the records, I mean, when it was first foisted upon him, Larry Silverstein is a great guy. He's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. But he didn't want to build this pile of junk. And it's a shame. It's really a shame. We have a great opportunity. And, you know, the terrorists win. If we build this job the way it is, the terrorists win. If we rebuild the World Trade Center, but a story taller and stronger, then we win. I mean, I don't want to have the terrorists win, Chris, and that's what's going to happen if we build this pile of junk.
Well, this pile of junk apparently is going to be built, according to the governor, except he's going to move it back a few feet from the West Side Highway. He's apparently named his chief of staff to oversee it. He's brought in Jack Kallstrom, the counterterrorist expert, to make sure it's secure. You believe none of these efforts are going to make the building what you want it to be?
Well, I just think it's a terrible design. By the way, it's not me. It's everybody. Everybody's unhappy. They do polls, they do studies, they do everything. Everybody's unhappy with it. For some reason, the governor, who's a friend of mine, I really like the governor. I mean, I have him on The Apprentice tonight. He's going to be on The Apprentice, the governor of New York. And, you know, he's a good guy, but for some reason, somebody is just misleading him down this path where we're going to have, look, we're going to suffer with these buildings for hundreds of years in New York City, and it just is the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong statement to make. The right statement to make is to rebuild the World Trade Center.
Well, the guys who really suffered and the women were the ones who had to jump off a 100-floor building to their deaths rather than fry to death. Do you think people will go up in those towers, get a cup of coffee, take the elevator to the 100th floor of a new World Trade Center, knowing there's still terrorists in the world? In fact, there'll be more terrorists by the time we have the building done.
Or a Freedom Tower. I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I think it's economically a very, very tough deal, because whether you build a World Trade Center or build Freedom Tower, a lot of people aren't going to go in. I mean, Larry's having a hard time getting tenants for a building that's a block away, and it's sitting there empty, almost complete, and a lot of people aren't going to want to go in. I mean, the fact is, whether you build the World Trade Center or the Freedom Tower or anything on that site, I think personally it's going to be a very hard rent. So I'm very happy to have my building at 40 Wall Street.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you are for that third option of just leaving that amputation site down there, which makes a clear statement to the world. We were hit hard. It hurt us. People died. That's our memorial.
Well, look, the market conditions are going to be tough for anything you build on that site. So the case could be made to build a great monumental park and call it Monumental Park, and that's what it would be. So that case has certainly been made. I know Rudy Giuliani at one point wanted that, or substantially wanted that, and other people like that idea. I like that much better than what I'm seeing architecturally. I think whatever you build on that site, Chris, is going to be very tough to rent for obvious reasons.
So in order of what you desire, and you're the #1 developer in New York, if you'd like to see a World Trade Center rebuilt with an extra floor, if you can't have that, leave the site for a memorial plot. And the third alternative, and only third, would be this Freedom Tower.
Well, I think the third alternative is not acceptable. I would certainly say the second alternative would be acceptable, doing a great park, a great just something magnificent. I mean, we have Central Park in New York, we have Riverside Park in New York. Make this a great waterfront park and, do something special. But don't build Freedom Tower. Freedom Tower, I mean, it's a wonderful name, but it's a horrible building.
Let's talk about your show, Apprentice, live tonight. Did you get jitters ever, Donald, about going on the air live? I know you're a powerful guy, but tonight's live and it's the finale.
Well, actually, tonight is part of the finale, and next week it's live. So next week I go on live, and, I've done a few of them, and I've done you live. Look, if I can do you live, I can do anything live, Chris. That's the way I look at it.
You're being kind. How are these guys working out that you've hired for the show?
Very good. Bill Rancic has been terrific. In fact, his 1 year just ended, and we extended him for another year. He's doing a great job. He's working in Chicago, mostly in sales, and I'm building a tremendous building at the Sun Times site in Chicago, 92 stories. That's selling like hotcakes, and Bill's involved. And Kelly Perdue is doing a tremendous job. We have a company called Trump Water, Trump Ice. It's a water company, and it makes water. I mean, it doesn't make it, it sells water. And it's terrific water, and he's doing an amazing job. So Bill and Kelly have both been great.
So you're going to have a woman winner this year, it looks like.
Well, we're going to have a woman, and I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of emails and letters, and the women are very happy, but you will definitely, there won't be suspense about that. I mean, it will be a woman, because the final two are women. And tonight's show is really terrific. It's a great show. And then next week is the live finale.
And that's going to be at the Skirball Center for the Performing Arts at the great New York University, where my son goes on the 19th, 9 o'clock. Donald Trump, thanks for coming on Hardball on this big day for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.